Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna have a guest app. I will be using this Inkscape together with Blender to produce something like this. It's kind of pretty basic and simple, but you will see that this is can be something that's really powerful. Inkscape is basically an open source vector illustration tool, and it's kind of similar to Adobe Illustrator. And I haven't used this much, but just recently I figured out, okay, you can actually do a lot of really interesting, cool stuff with Inkscape. And since this is a vector, and then Blender also have a way to bring SVG, and we can perhaps do something interesting. Yeah, and then yeah, basically you can download Inkscape. First of all, it's open source. You can download it for Windows, Linux, or Mac. On a Mac, it's gonna run under Xquartz, so it's gonna be a little bit slow, as you can see, but it's still kind of a powerful tool that you can use together with Blender. I always like if I found a way to bridge between app, and then this is one of such occasions. So let's get started. Blank Blender, and let's create a new document for Inkscape. I'm gonna do the quick basic one first, and just gonna draw like a box. See, change the color, draw another box, change color again. Yeah, just make something simple. It seems like you draw first, and then you click on the color. That's the way it's gonna work. And just let's try making them overlapping like this. Save it real quick. File, save as, drawing to SVG. Save. And yeah, just like that. And then you're done. In Blender, we have a file, import SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. So SVG is actually a very interesting format, and I just figured out that SVG also has it's like XML. If you click here inside Inkscape, click on it, you can see this is actually an XML format, and you can read underneath, like you can see what's actually going on each object. So let's say I'm like rotating this guy, and then now I'm selecting this object, and you can see the SVG actually have information about the rotations. I just rotated like minus 38 something degree, and then I can really easily change the number and then set it. Yeah, see this guy actually moved from the original. I don't know why, but it's something that I'm still learning. But anyhow, before we get into XML, and that's something that I'm gonna talk in the future. Back into Blender, so you can see we have this 3 squares, and it comes into Blender as curve. So that's really interesting. They are currently overlapping. So there's a quick way you can do so they are not overlapping. Let me try. File, save as, just save it as Inkscape 001. If you don't want them to be overlapping, you can use Sverchok Nodes for that. I'm gonna be using Sverchok. By the way, these guys are curves. So if you're selecting the curve and then you extrude, it's gonna be easily become like a 3D object. If you want to extrude them all at the same time, you can select them in Blender, shift select, and then hold on option on Mac, and then drag on extrude. So that's a nice little trick there. They are still overlapping though, so we're gonna fix that first. Let's see. Let's use objects in. and select all these objects, bring it into Sverchok environment, and let's do some interesting magic here with nodes. Object ID set. So with object ID set, you can basically make modifications and into any attributes of objects in Blender, any attribute. So in this case, we have this curve. Plug this guy in, and we want to perhaps randomize the locations in Z so they are not overlapping. We can do that. So location Z and range float. Plug this guy in, and then oops, I actually changed the, okay, yeah, that's actually correct. 0 to 1 count 3, so this one can be just small number. So now they won't be overlapping if you do it this way, just a small value, because what's going on in the background is that it's going to be creating this number for us, 0 and then whatever numbers in between 0 and 0.08. Okay, so that's a quick trick, right? If you don't want them to be overlapping. And Inkscape actually has some interesting algorithm. I just figured this out while testing Inkscape yesterday. So you can use object align and distribute. Let's close this XML thing, and then if you have overlapping squares, you can remove overlaps. Just click on this guy. That's removing the overlaps. So that's actually really cool. I think that can be a powerful tool as well. So let's see the thing with vector tools like Inkscape, Adobe Illustrator. You can quickly make some kind of layout arrangement like this, you know, and then if you're happy with it, they are currently overlapping. This guy right here will remove overlap, magically remove overlap. So that's really cool. I found it's not perfect, but it's really removing overlap. This is like a nice algorithm. So if I save this, go back to Blender, delete everything, file, import SVG, get our drawings. So we have this guy right here. So a lot of objects. They are not overlapping though, which is good in our case. They will all come with a different color. I mean, different material. So that's one thing to keep in mind. This is because file, import SVG, parse the SVG format for us, and then it's creating material, etc. for each and every curve. Sometimes that's what you want, sometimes that's not what you want. You want the color, you want a single material with a different color based on the object color, for example. We can actually do that. We can actually, I will talk about it later, but for now, let's keep it simple. Let's do something with this guy. Let's see if we want to extrude it randomly, you know, like doing extrusion. We can, of course, you know, select this guy and then Alt, Option, and then make some variations that way. But I like to do it using Sverchok. Let's see how we can do it. If you hover over the attributes, you can see there's an extrude there. So let's try extrude. Here it's giving an error. Whenever you see something like this, bpy.data curves, and then it's giving an error, just put a data in front of it. So now it works and no problem at all. So float, plug this in. Now we can control some of them. Oh, actually, I'm gonna select all of them again and get selections. Now we are controlling all of them. Pretty cool, right? But we want some variation. So we have 19 curve objects. let's create random number generator. You can pick integer or float. I will be using float. The size is gonna be the size of this object, so list length. Check the result first. Stethoscope. Sometimes you get it. See, that's wrong. Should be level 0. Okay. Plug the size here. And the output should go in the value, and check it out. Look at that. We have random extrusions. One funny things about Blender extrusion is that it extrudes at the center. Sometimes I don't like that. I want it to be on the ground. So to make it on the ground, we can offset it. We can, for every extrusion of certain value, we can offset the Z. Since we don't really care about the Z, you can also scale it. No, just use the Z. So for every curve, location.z, the Z axis will use the same value. So now each and every object's being extruded and also being offset with the same value. That's why they are all on the ground. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So what else we can do here? So you can also do it this way. Instead of random number, you can use vector noise and scalar, and then so I'm gonna cut this random. See, vector noise is slightly different, right? You can pick an output of vector. We want it scalar for the size, right? We can plug this guy in, and it doesn't work right away because we need some kind of vertices. And with the vertices, okay, you get that's happening. So that's kind of cool, but we only have a single value controlling all of them. We want some variations. So there are many ways to do it. Sometimes I just like to use line, for example. Plug in line. How many we have? 19, right? 19 goes into the number of vertices of line. So now we have variations of the noise, and you can control the noise. On top of this, you can also move the line and control this value using frame. And let's see, it's a little bit too fast. We can use math, plug this here, multiply by small value. Now actually we don't need this because we have this. Okay, forgot. I always forget about that. We have multiplier here. So now the noise kind of going through the line, and then it's generating vector noise, outputting scalar value for our extrusion and locations. Cool. So that's pretty cool. I want to give you one more quick trick. I don't know if I should do it now, but I kind of want to show you anyway. So word cloud. Have you ever heard a word cloud? This is a free online version. Well, I think the one I use is not this one. Wordle. I think I like Wordle, or Jason Davies. I think this is the one I used yesterday. We can copy and paste like a bunch of words, and it's gonna create this kind of word cloud. And let's try something real quick. Let's see, it's a bit slow at the moment. Okay, let's find a lyric. I'll pick this song. Yep, I think I picked this song the other day, and basically one of the rap song by Shin02 and Nujabes. Maybe you know this. Anyhow, just copy and paste a bunch of text, paste into here, and it's gonna generate this world cloud for us. Once you have this, you can download the SVG. So SVG, it's gonna download the SVG for us and have a look in Finder. So this is how it looks. If you try to just import this, it's not gonna work right away. I'll show you. Delete everything, file, import, SVG, downloads folder, this file, import, nothing. You see nothing. Why? Because Blender import SVG doesn't work with text, unfortunately. And if we look at it inside, if we open the SVG using Inkscape, how do I get to downloads? Okay, where is it? Word cloud. Open it. So you can see it's actually working, and you can, if you zoom in, you can actually change this. You know, it's still like a text object. So that's kind of cool. Here I tried export like make modification, but I think the quickest one is actually selecting all of this, or Control A, and then go object, or actually object to path. We're gonna convert all these text objects into path and then save it so that Blender can read it. This might take a while. It's a lot faster if I'm not recording. Are they? Yeah, they're actually, it's already done. File, save as, work cloud as, let's give it a different name. Now back to Blender, file, import, SVG. See, the file size increases. The text objects now become a curve path. And we're gonna have like thousands of curve paths, okay? Be careful with that. But at least they are all working. Each and every letter will become a single object. Now, I kind of wish that each and every text object become like a single curve object. There must be a way to do that, but that's gonna be for the future. For now, I'm gonna make like a real. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna select everything and load it into Sverchok, and hopefully this works. Seems like we have 8,000 objects, but wow. Yep, it is working, and we have a lot of different extrusions. Because the size is really small, that's why. Probably it's a good idea to just use a random number and control the value. It's simpler. See, because we are really controlling each and every letter, extruding them, and we have around almost like 10,000 objects. I think we have 8,222. I'll make the extrusion a bit smaller. I think this is much better. So just a bit of extrusion for every letter. So we can kind of still read it from the top. This is still kind of a very interesting 3D artwork, right? You can even print this out. So we can see the name Xing02, and then all kind of, this is all the words from the song. You can YouTube search for Nujabes Love Sick. This is one of I think one of the best song out there, one of my favorite. But yeah, very interesting lyric. So anyhow, so you can use word cloud, export it as SVG, bring it into Inkscape to turn it to make everything into like a curve, and import it into Blender. That's the whole process, right? The whole procedures. That's the way you can blend Inkscape into Blender, and it's now become a 3D object. You can, if you can print this out, it's gonna be so cool. You can probably sell it. But anyhow, what I want, I'm currently actually learning about XML and Python, and hopefully I can kind of being able to inspect each and every object, you know, like, see, this is very, very interesting because each and every text have some kind of ID. If you import it into Blender, they become separate, but if you parse it yourself using your own custom parsing in Python, you can group them. You can still group them. So yeah, this can be interesting to study, but it's gonna be for the future live noding. So anyhow, so hopefully you find this interesting and useful. This is how you can kind of mix curve objects from Inkscape into Blender. I think Inkscape is powerful. There are other vector tools out there like NodeBox or Processing. Also, Processing can generate SVG. They are a really good open source tool, and you can also play with the algorithm that comes with it. If you can work them together, you can really generate vector shapes that you can use inside Blender. It's like a really like huge potential on this, but I don't know. I still find that not many people knows about this. Normally, because they often use like all this like Photoshop, Illustrator, and all 3D package like. But I'm working like with what I'm doing. I always try to use open source tool, so I can just use it on any computer without worrying about license. So Blender and Inkscape, anyhow, is very powerful. And in the future, I will look into NodeBox and Processing. Processing has its own programming language, but something like Inkscape is still really like it's very graphic. It's the UI is very graphical. You know, you can just use the tool and create some kind of vector graphics that you can bring into Blender. Like in this case, you know, how can there is a way to generate word cloud using Python, but this is easy because you don't need to worry about scripting. You just put in like a lyric or whatever, and then it's gonna generate it for you. It has its own algorithm, but yeah, there you go. That's a long live noding, but hopefully this kind of useful if you ever need to use Inkscape and Blender to generate something like this. It's pretty easy. Okay, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.